Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Vopelka, and I'm pleased to be here. And I would like to touch the personalization topic and show it on use cases from finance and retail industries. But before we jump into those two verticals, let's maybe start with the personalization as such. So these days, you all know the services that are evolving around personalized experience, such as Netflix, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify Music, YouTube, and so on. And there's like those services are growing quite a lot. And what is actually happening is that they are in general raising the expectation from us as a, let's say, consumers, as a customers of their services. And this is actually quite tricky thing for more traditional businesses, such as, for example, retail banking. So for retail banking, it's not that easy to create such a personalized experience because their products are not that straightforward. Yeah, everyone on the world can understand how Netflix work. Anyone can understand how YouTube's work, but if we talk about financial products, it's a way different story, right? So the thing here is that financial products as such need some kind of education. So banks are in the position that they need to educate their customers, and this is not an easy task to do because first of all, no one likes to be educated, right? And especially not about financial product that they are not needing at the moment right now. Yeah. So the way how to tackle this, let's say, business problem is to personalize it for every single customer and provide with on a level of individual customer useful content such as articles, some kind of learnings, which kind of financing to take for which kind of need, guidance about the products, about the conditions of products, explaining things around the financial products, and in the same way targeting it into individual people in the right time, right channel, right content. This, let's say, general marketing goal. So let's imagine we have a case that we want to start growing the and educating customer in a field of investments, and we want to do it for an entire customer portfolio. So first, we need to start with the implicit knowledge about the customer behavior, and this is where AI and machine learning can help us greatly. Because, for example, bank, as you probably know, they have like billions of card transactions. With every single card transaction, you have information which card on which POS or which kind of sales point the transaction was made. You you know when it was done. You of course are able to derive the geolocation and many other information, so you can derive insights like customers that are more likely to spend on luxury goods, on let's say taxi services and these kind of services more than the rest of the base. In the same manner, you can work with the digital interactions. Banks typically have millions of people visiting their website, searching for some kind of content about their products, documents and so on. And also, they have billions of interactions of people clicking and playing around with calculators in their mobile apps and internet banking apps. So again, from those data, you can, using the algorithms, again, on an individual level of customer, get the insights such as someone who shown a little bit of more interest in the investment products, in this topic and so on. In the same case, they also, for example, have the data from advertising. So they can, for example, see which customers, of course, if they have proper consent, but in case they do, they can see, for example, which type of content or which type of topic on the internet the customer is reading, whether he is more into sport, whether he is more into some financial topic like stocks and so on. And again, this you can collect and derive these informations and learn from these informations from the data. And at last but not least are definitely the data from physical branches. This is like a big topic in retail banking. Like, of course, it would be easier to switch off all the branches, but what about the trust? What about the human touch with customers? So the branches are still like key part of the business. and the data from these touch points with the customers are often way harder to be used by, let's say, typical rule-based approach, because it's some kind of text recordings, call logs, and so on. So this rule-based approach definitely not working here. So or not at least efficiently. Of course, to some extent it works, but if the bank wants to leverage all the data to full potential, they need to go this more algorithmical machine learning approach. So how it works, how we tackle that? We typically build the customer 360 data model. It's a very complex model of interaction in all the mentioned channels, and then we are automatically creating something we call customer journeys. So for every single customer, there is like happening, or that is being constructed a customer journey that is having the sequence from all the sources, and the touch points are represented by keywords, topics, interests, and basically anything that somehow have the information about the customer behavior. And then, based on this data set, the data scientists of the bank can train their algorithms. They can train algorithms to predict important moments in these customer journeys. These important moments can be something like people who started to read about this product, people who went to the branch and discussed that, people who started to use mobile banking more, people who started to purchase or get a product via digital channel, people who complained, and so on. So they can train a lot of algorithms to predict that, and then they can continuously calculate these predictions for, again, entire customer base. So at the end, the scale of this, let's say, micro segmentation can allow banks not just get the insights, but see also the correlations between the insights. So, for example, people who like to travel, they are also more likely to be interested in that and use this channel, and so on. And this all can be even more enriched by processing the data from call centers, from branches, and from any feedback forms, surveys, and so on. These are typically free text data, or it's call recordings that can be easily turned using voice-to-text algorithms. They can be turned into text and then analyzed using natural language processing methods to understand sentiment, to understand topics, and the, let's say, trends in topics in the inbound and both outbound communication with the customers. And this all adds up into the mixture about the customer, let's say, profile. So at the end, the solution here, on one hand, we have the automated insights from many various sources that are leveraging many different machine learning methods, and then we try to democratize those insights within the business by our application. So everyone from multiple different teams who are communicating different products to customers can leverage these insights across the entire company. And therefore, these teams are then able to create a personalized experience in all the channels that the bank can communicate with the customer, including the branches. This, of course, leads to like significant improvements in the customer engagement, and of course, in second or implied way in the sales. And let's say one important topic here I would like to stress out too is that this can help greatly as a, let's say, augmentation of current advisors, because current advisors, they are typically pretty smart people, but they cannot analyze every single data about the customer. So by this approach, we are able to easily pre-process the data and just stress out the characteristic of a customer they are about to meet and integrate it into their typical CRM systems. Again, saving time, more efficient meetings with the customer. So this is, let's say, what we call personalization suite for banking and insurance. It's consistent of multiple modules, and it's based on a typical cloud environment and leveraging the distributed computational power of Spark engine that is key enabler in manipulating data and training models. So if we move now to retail and FMCG, how is the situation there? Of course, there are like programs like loyalty programs, these bonus programs and cashback programs and so on. But this is quite still a single channel type of things. So we see in the market that the retail is a little bit behind banking, and they still focus on more straightforward cases. And they are trying to adopt the typical e-commerce recommendation systems. Here you can see, for example, our recommender from one of the biggest e-commerce. The key difference here is that the recommendation engine does not just recommend products, but recommends the reasons why. Like there is like a bigger something and better consumption of energy and so on. And if we turn this into the whole transformation of classical retailers, for example, car dealers and so on, then they can a little bit try to substitute the work of an advisor or some kind of salesperson in a digital environment. So they can recommend for example, right cars. Or we are going even more beyond, and we see that typically for brands and big, let's say CPG brands, there are a big trend of managing the product placement and optimizing it. So we developed a lot of algorithms to detect different products in the shelf, how are placed, how they should be placed, and then we are able to automate the reporting on top of that. And let's say last use case in this area is, for example, this a little bit more funny one about detecting the quality of a beer, which is again highly subjective topic. But if you apply use case of based on, let's say, deep learning techniques, then you can have at least some kind of more objective comparison how every single pub is drawing your favorite beer, and you can work with the pub to make it better. So that's from, let's say, our side, and I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any of the questions right now or later in the meeting room.
No, thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you. We still don't have a time for a beer at this moment, but we have a time for one question. And I would like to ask you actually three questions in one. Who is your typical client today? How easy is it to start with a use case? And how quickly I can see some first benefits in the pilot implementation?
Okay, so it depends on vertical. So if we are talking about retail banking, it's we can create some impact within a couple of months. Of course, the entire vision and entire transformation, how the company is using the customer data in order to personalize the experience, this is something that will not happen overnight and definitely not happen from, let's say, outside. So we join typically our client. We serve as some kind of cooperation or joint team with their internal teams, and we roll it step by step. So typically it takes a couple of months to show first results and then scale it. And
thank you. Yeah, thank you, David. Sorry, we don't have more time at this moment, but for those of you who are interested in Datasentics, please join the virtual meeting room at the end of our conference.